We will now call the meeting to order. This is the regular town board meeting, February 21st, 2022, 6 p.m. here in Town Hall. Thank you all for coming this evening. At this time, I'd like for us to take a moment of silence. Thank you. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I would also like to thank citizens who are watching and live. I believe we are live, correct? Yes, sweet. We are going to move into mayor and commissioner reports. And we will start with Commissioner Boone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The chief will be giving my fire report here in a second. But I'd just like to remind everyone that Huntersville 101 starts the first week in March. We have 1 opening for the morning class and 5 openings for the evening. It's no cost to this program. It's 7 weeks. It's first come, first served. So if you're interested, please sign up. That's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Boone. Commissioner Kovacs?
My report from the Lake Norman Chamber. The Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce held a very informative Focus Friday this past Friday with the 3 mayors, Mayor Bales, Mayor Knox, and Mayor Washam. They discussed transportation improvements, new developments, and upcoming events, and you can view that on the Chamber's YouTube channel. Tuesday, February 22nd, the Chamber will celebrate the 2-year anniversary of Cool Kids Clubhouse in Huntersville with from 6 to 8 p.m. as a drop-in. And there will also be 2 professional development programs that are both in-person and virtual. Thursday, February 24th is the Lunch and Learn at 12 p.m. And on Monday, February 28th is a Lunch and Learn as well. And you can view all of these on lakenormanchamber.org. And the Huntersville Chamber update, tomorrow at 7:30 a.m., there will be a weekly Networking Works Zoom call with a special guest speaker of Mayor Bales. The link to that is on the Huntersville Chamber website. Last Thursday, there was the member meeting held at Focus Office Suites that had a very big crowd. The Chamber is very happy to see things starting to get back to normal. And lastly, the Chamber will be represented at the Art and Community groundbreaking on March 17th, along with the Lake Norman Chamber. And that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Kovacs. Commissioner Kidwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the last CRTPO meeting, we approved $50 million in funds to projects locally, including over $6 million in Huntersville. And for our Veterans Affairs, the officer will be at Town Hall every Wednesday from 8 to 5. I have shared this information with Cornelius Davidson, the Legion, and the Marine Corps League here in Huntersville. That's it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Phillips.
It's nice to see all you veterans sitting out here in the audience, so thank you for your service. Just wanted to get that out there. I only have one update. It's Visit Lake Norman. They are currently recruiting summer and fall internships. This is ideal for young people coming back home or getting ready to go to college. They're offering marketing, sports marketing, and graphic design internship opportunities. You can visit their website to learn more, or you can contact Cindy Bartley at lakenorman.org. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Great. Thank you so much. Commissioner Partee?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, commissioners, town staff, residents viewing on social media. Before I give my report, in keeping with the faith and spirit of February as Black History Month, I want to recognize Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was an African-American abolitionist, humanitarian, and during the American Civil War, a Union spy. Nicknamed Moses, she rescued approximately 70 enslaved people from southern plantations in a sum total of 13 missions by using a network of anti-slavery activists and safe houses known as the Underground Railroad. In her later years, Harriet Tubman was an activist in the movement for women's suffrage. Now for my report. On February 9th, Commissioner Munger, Ms. Kim Strickland, our town PIO information officer, and myself were invited by Superintendent Shannon Stein and Community Relations Director Sarah Lay to tour the campuses of Lake Norman Charter Elementary, Middle, and High School. It was a visit, it was very enlightening and informative. On Saturday, February 12th, we had the ribbon cutting of Rosedale Nature Park to mark its official opening. It was great to see former Commissioners Nick Walsh, Brian Hines, who were involved in the development phases during their terms on the board. On Monday, February 14th, I attended the Black History Month Forum at the Waymer Center and watched a movie called Hidden Figures and partaked in the popcorn and refreshments. On Tuesday, February 15th, the Greenway Trail and Bikeway Commission met virtually. You can visit the Vine page on the Huntersville website to view the list of greenways and trail system. Thursday, February 17th, I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new Lowe's Supermarket with my fellow commissioners and Mayor Bales. On Friday, February 18th, I had the honor to speak before the 7th grade social studies class at J.M. Alexander Middle School. The students had submitted 4 bullet point questions on how Huntersville will address these issues. 1, increasing homelessness and availability of shelters. 2, power outages for the town's response to restoring the power to residents. 3, the lack of grocery stores in lower income neighborhoods. And how to encourage businesses and other entities to switch to renewable energy, and how the town itself is trying to move towards renewable energy. So I invited the class to take a field trip one day to our facility, to our town, and speak with our town manager, Anthony Roberts, who will give them a full tour of the facilities. I volunteered you, Mr. Roberts. Now I just want to read a press release that our Huntersville Police Department had just recently put out. And it's very important to recognize the outstanding investigative salability workmanship of the Huntersville Homicide Division. For immediate release, February 21st, 2022, an update. The Huntersville Police Department has identified the victim of this homicide as Alberia Libby Kearns, 47, female, white, of Rowan County. Huntersville Police received many leads over the last 2 weeks that aided in the identification of our victim. Earlier this week, investigators traveled to Grand Rapids, Michigan, to interview a second suspect, Cody Red Camerata Graham, 36, a white female, as part of this investigation. Graham has been in custody in Michigan since well before our investigation began on unrelated charges. Upon returning to Michigan, the Huntersville Police Department sought and obtained charges of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and concealing a death. Graham will remain in custody in Michigan until extradition hearing can be completed. So with that, my next announcement is on gun private ownership safety. Accidental discharges cause a serious physical injury and death. Huntersville PD has free child safety gun locks, and if any person or organization needs locks, send me an email to dparty@huntersville.org. Children are curious, so let's be child safe. Finally, I want to bring awareness to a nonprofit organization named Cool Kids Clubhouse in honor of Dan Jensen, located here in Huntersville. Cool Kids Clubhouse mission is devoted to improving the quality of life for pediatric cancer patients. Cancer survival is very dear to my heart because I am a cancer survivor. So please check out their website and donate. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Munger.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Partee. It's great to hear that you were able to visit with these students from JMA, and it sounds like they had some very good questions. So the next Huntersville Ordinance Advisory Board meeting will be March 3rd, 2022. And also, on February 15th, I was able to attend the Black History Month event put on by our Miss B.J. Caldwell at the Little Rosenwald School, which was very informative and enjoyable. On February 17th, also, I did attend the opening of the new Lowe's grocery store. It is where Earth Fare used to be on Gilead, and I can personally tell you the truffle mustard they had is outstanding. Loved it. Please go out and check that out. And last but not least is, as always, if you have an opportunity to give, please consider supporting our nonprofits such as Angels and Sparrows, Caterpillar Ministries, Bags of Hope, Hope House, and Ada Jenkins. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. So I'll move on to my report. MTC is scheduled to meet this Wednesday. We will be meeting virtually Wednesday evening. So I'll have more, hopefully, to share after that meeting. This past Saturday, this board had a strategic session, planning session, and I'm looking forward to bringing to this board at our next board meeting a mission, vision, core values, and goals that the board set during that session for hopeful adoption. And hopefully we'll bring that to you at the next board meeting for a vote. Something exciting happening in Huntersville. I don't know if you know about it. There is a Mayor's Fitness Challenge. And it starts on Sunday, March the 6th at North Mac Park. Starts at 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. I would ask not only my fellow board members up here, but also all citizens in Huntersville to take up that challenge. Easy. All you're doing is all your active minutes, all your active steps, you're logging them each and every week. Last year, Davidson took home the trophy. Need I say more? No. And I will tell you that Mayor Washam from Cornelius is also going to give us a run for our money, but I expect that trophy to come here to Huntersville. So I'm hopeful after that 8-week fitness challenge that trophy will be sitting right here for all of us. Not just all of us as in the board, but all of us as a community. On Friday, as you heard earlier, I had the opportunity to participate in the Lake Norman Chambers Focus Friday with the other mayors north of us. And it was a great time to hear what's happening in their towns and also to share what's happening in ours. Again, you heard about the Lowe's ribbon cutting, great food, obviously great mustard. I would encourage everybody to go there and check it out. And then, of course, the ribbon cutting at the Rosedale Nature Park. And it is a beautiful park, and it's one that, and I want to take a moment to recognize former Commissioner Gibbons. He was on the board when we started that project. And to see it come to fruition is just incredible. It's a beautiful place. If you haven't stopped by yet, I encourage you to do so. And the last thing is just to remind not only the board, but also the public that on February 28th and March the 1st at the Latta Nature Park, or Nature Preserve in the Quest Building, we will be holding our planning session. So we will be having our planning workshop out there all day for 2 days, and we'll let them go home to sleep, and the board. But we'll be out there for a couple of days working and planning on what this next year is going to look like for Huntersville and beyond. And with that, I will open it up for any staff questions that the board may have. Okay, I have 2. So bear with me. I have a question in regards to Colonial Pipeline. We have not had an update in a while. Mr. Roberts or Mr. Williams, either one, is there an opportunity for us to see if they can come back before the board?
Yes, and Bobby can probably give you some more details on
Right
that.
over here.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, we've made a request and are just waiting to hear back at this point. Certainly not from Cronin, but hopefully from North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality to give you a check-in status as to where things are.
Perfect, thank you very much. And my second question, we got an email this afternoon, and they had asked that it be put into the public record. And I know that the board had previously stated that if we were in person, we were not accepting emails to go into the public record. And is that correct, Janet? That's my understanding of the past decision?
That is correct. I think there's a footnote on the policy that allows if the board elects to accept the comment.
Yes, I'll read it to the board. It says that when the board elects to permit remote public participation, whether by phone or emailed comments, remote public speakers must contact the town clerk and provide the information required by this paragraph no later than 3 p.m. on the date of the scheduled board meeting. Like I stated earlier, the board had said we were not going to do that in the past, but I wanted to put it out there for this board. Ms. Sloop, would you like to weigh in before we,
No, that's my understanding as well, is that it was previously stated when this board returned in person that we would not be allowing the comments to be emailed in. The town board, per the policy, could choose to allow it if they wanted to.
so I don't know if that's something that this board would like to do this evening. I do want to make sure that we're keeping a standard so that we're not bouncing around. I think that's fair to all the residents. But I wanted to bring it to the attention of not only staff, but of the board to see where we wanted to go with that.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to chime in on that.
Please.
Since we're all getting kind of back to where we were, getting back in the groove, this person might not have known that rule, and they were going with the old rule book. I would like to make an exception for this evening to enter that into the record, the comments.
Anyone else? Commissioner Kidwell.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Boone. But going forward, this board needs to set a precedent of what we're going to do. So if we're going to allow this in the future, maybe something we talk about at retreat, and to have further discussion. But for this instance, I do concur.
Anyone else? Okay, so what I hear is that we will make an exception tonight, and we will have a conversation around this at retreat and nail down the formal policy. Yes, Ms. Sloop?
We just need a consensus.
Okay, so I would like to see consensus. Oh, okay, so we have consensus. When we get to the public comments time, if you wouldn't mind reading that for us, Ms. Strickland? Thank you. All right, moving on. Item 6A, this is the Huntersville Fire Department fiscal year '23 goals. Chief Tatoli.
Sorry I can't make it to your retreat this year, so they were able to fit me in, and thank you, Jackie and Anthony, for that. This book that you're given, it has nothing to do with this presentation. It's more something that you could take home. It's really a breakdown of more details of what you're going to see tonight. So don't worry about the book. Just take it home, do what you want with it. But it does give you a breakdown of some of the stuff. There's also a worksheet in there of how the money's spent throughout the year for the fire department. It's also a breakdown of the calls that we go on, the types of incidents, and I believe some of the commissioners had some questions on that. So there's your book, and it's given to you every year for the new commissioners. There's your basic topics that we're going to just discuss tonight. After we go through each topic, if you want to discuss any of it, just please let me know. We'll stop on any questions that you have. A little comparison side by side. The year of COVID, which we're still in, but 2020, you can see the incidents were a lot lower than what we have currently in 2021. People just were afraid to go to the hospital. I mean, that was the bottom line. No one wanted to go to the hospital probably to get the chances of getting COVID. So we shot right back up in the amount of incidents that we went to. Just has a little property loss in there. That's just obviously going to any of the fires or hazards that we go to, that there was a loss of property from housing to cars to anything else. The average time right now, 6:07, a couple seconds difference between the 2 years. Seconds count, obviously, but as the town gets bigger and the more traffic there is out there, it'll add, that number could grow. That's just part of the game. Just a little basic instance of what you see every month. We're averaging probably about 500 calls. Looks like your biggest month there was about August, about 616 calls. There's really no rhyme or reason to say, hey, this month is going to be, oh my God, it's almost August. Well, next year might be October. We don't know what's going to happen. We really don't. It's just a basic call volume of the months that we see every year. This was something new we put on there. We just wanted to give you the last few years to see the rise in calls. Again, 2020 was our COVID year, so it's going to sink down. But there's constantly we're going to see the call volume go up. We're not going to go backwards because of the population and everything else that's coming our way. Anything about calls, and you have a better breakdown in your books as far as the types of calls.
Commissioner Kovacs?
I was just going to ask if you happen to have, I know your time went up not by much. Would you attribute it just to more people, traffic, not enough firefighting? Do you have any idea of what the impact, or what's impacting that?
I think it's just traffic. Traffic's always going to make us, delay longer. Every time we put a stoplight in, or we put a red light or a roundabout in, it's going to delay the response of that fire truck by seconds. Nothing that we can't make up. When those response times get, longer, I try to move them quicker out the door. And, when we built Station 4, we went from a 14-foot roll-up door to a door that opened side to side. So those kind of things make up a difference, believe it or not, when you're responding with a fire apparatus. So there's ways that try to get around them.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Munger?
Yeah, quick question on the, I believe it was the property loss number. It went from like 330,000, I don't have the number up there, but to like 980. Was there like a big one or something that it just seems like a huge jump?
Pactiv had a fire. When we get the warehouse fires like a Pactiv, that they lose a piece of machinery or anything, we rely on them to say, hey, what did that cost? And that's where you lose. It ain't that we had 4 house fires that cost $200,000 each. But when we end up in one of the warehouses that catch fire, that's where the larger losses come from.
Okay, and the second question I have is actually to the point you had kind of mentioned, time out the door. I saw you went from 120 to 136. Is that any cause for concern there? Or?
Yeah, for my case it was. I thought, when that time goes up, to me, they're not moving fast enough. I want the number as low as it could go. Now, that also includes at night. Mm-hmm. So when you got people sleeping in a bed, obviously they got to get changed and get dressed and head on down to the fire truck. And that's them keying up the radio and everything else. So minute 26, it sounds like a lot, but it could be lower. And that's what the goal was, to keep it as low as you could get it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes. Commissioner Kidwell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief. Couple questions. I'm looking at the incident types. What is a good intent call? Because we had 1,283 of those.
And they don't know what to categorize it as. Someone called in that there's a cat down a drain.
So it's just kind of miscellaneous.
Yeah, miscellaneous calls that we don't put it under. It's not EMS. It's not a fire. It's not a hazardous material call, and they put it under good intent. Now
20% of our calls last year.
Right. And it could be a range of things. We get called for everything that the police don't want to do or can't do, But you take is he still here? I wasn't sure. But yeah, someone's water won't shut off because the hot water tank, they call the fire department. It's just those kind of things. And where do you categorize them? Well, it's a good intent. We'll go out there, we'll try to help you. Trees down in the roadways, the police call them during the storms. We might go to 20 of those on an ice storm or anything like that. It's a good intent call. It just doesn't fit into the categories that you see on the other ones.
And then the kind of what Commissioner Munger was talking about, the property loss. How is that number calculated? Do you go back after an incident, after a fire or any type of incident, do you go back to the individual homeowner or business owner and say, what do the insurance companies say? How do you come up with that number?
So every fire is investigated by the Mecklenburg County Fire Marshal's office, and they put a total of property loss or content loss.
Okay,
So it's a double check, really.
awesome. That's what I have for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Chief. Could you just talk a minute about 55 and older facilities where if I'm in one of those facilities and I slip and fall and I'm laying on the floor, the employees of that building can't pick me up until you guys arrive?
Right. It's a lot of.
You ever talk to these people that, why don't they just pick up their own people?
They don't want to, management won't take on the responsibility. The saying they picked you up and you were hurt or you hurt your back. So they wait for the EMS provider to show up who they feel can make a better judgment to say, oh my, okay, Dan's back is okay. We could pick him up off the chair and then the liability's off of them.
Well, I was just asking for a friend. I just would ask for me. But it just seems like that we're having a lot more 55 and older communities coming into our area, and it seems like this number is going to continue to grow.
Yeah, they do put a load on, the fire department, but we're there to, whether what age you are or, it doesn't matter, I mean, to us, but they do, when those kind of calls come in, we know what the call type is, and they need our help, so. We even get calls to the hospital, so if that even tells you anything, never mind 55 and older. We do have people that call for the fire department, 911 in the parking lots of the hospital, because they feel that they'll get in quicker by getting put on a gurney. So there is games out there that are played. Instead of you walking in there doing the right thing, those kind of calls are calculated into that, so also.
Commissioner Partee?
Chief, I just want to speak for myself, and I just want to thank you for your service, your men. It's hard to conceptualize as civilians, and I'm a first responder, retired first responder, what the emotional and the anxiety that firemen and police go to when they respond to a 911 call. And it takes a unique and special person to suppress that fear factor that comes with the job. And we're trained, you're trained, you have good men that's try to train. But I just want to say, Chief, that I just want to thank you. My family feels safe, and I feel safe just living here in Huntersville. Thank you for your service.
I appreciate it. Remember, the doors are always open for all of you, anybody who wants to come to the fire station. And that's the best way to learn about the fire department. We communicate by email, but walking in there, she's done it plenty of times, and communicating with us and just wanting to just talk, I mean, that's the best way to do it. I encourage everybody to actually do that rather than read about us on Instagrams and reading about people's comments on Facebooks or anything else. That's not the proper way to learn about what the fire department's about. Come to the fire station, we'll sit down with you, I'll sit down with you, and we'll have a powwow together and really knock it out. Moving on?
Continue on?
All right, land search. So remember, this says land search, so this is for the future. I don't want you to think that this is, when we start talking about land and areas, obviously, Station 5, which we're looking at for the future, just so the new commissioners know, we have to be within 5 miles from our border. So when we talk about the Renaissance Festival, that's in the town of Huntersville. So that's Station 1 and 3 respond to that now if there's a fire. So that's a pretty far away, it's a good ride. So obviously as the infrastructure and the water and everything else are coming down to that Hiawassee area, we feel the Hiawassee Road between Raymond Church and Huntersville Concord is going to be the core spot for the next fire station. On the map, why it's yellow is because basically we took 5 miles and we brought it in as far as we could go. Anything that's yellow would be a great spot for a fire station, but the Hiawassee Road area is where we want to be smack in the middle of that area. It's also in the town's ETJ, so ETJ money could be used to purchase that kind of land. And you'll see it on the next slide that if you did build it, you have a pretty good surrounding of the fire stations to cover the 62 square miles. Right now, that's no man's land. Thank God, there's not many calls out there. You know, development's coming. It's coming down Raymond Church, and you go out there every day, and it's coming down Huntersville Concord. But eventually, the land purchase needs to be done. And, you know, I take it upon myself to go out there and look around all the time. You know, Anthony asks me about once a month, hey, you find anything yet? You know, we're not going out there with a big, fat, open check. I'm just taking the time doing it myself. And there's other ways, obviously, to purchase land, but right now, that's what I'm your eyes and ears.
So before we move on, just a quick question. So we're waiting on water and sewer to get out there.
I think we're waiting more on the great piece of land without the water and sewer yet, so we could buy low and eventually it'll be out there. I would not build that station probably for the next 10 to 15 years. But if we owned a piece of land and then the water and sewer came, at least you have it and you're ready to go.
Commissioner Kidwell.
Yeah, I know several years ago, had the idea of a station not too far from there, but out there by Bradford Park. County-owned property that we could piggyback off of. And, sorry, guys, back in person for the first time forever, these mics, I apologize. A few years back, I think I shared with then Commissioner Bales, potential of a fire station out by Bradford Park, right off 73 and Raymond Church, however you want to say it. Would that be an area as well within that?
I think if you built that today, you'd be faced with what you did with Station 3. You're running 180 behind you and nothing across from you. If you build that station more in the heart of the area, you could at least run 360 around it and cover a better area, is my personal opinion. Don't forget, the only reason we built Station 3, which is a bad spot,
It's for the police substation to be there.
yeah, was because that area was annexed, and then there was no fire station protection within the 5 miles. So the state came in and said, no, you have to have a fire station within 5 miles, and that was the only location, because they do it by driving miles. So when you go all the way back to Skybrook, and you work your way from that back end to that front, and you already covered 3 miles, well, we had to find a location on Eastfield Road. There's no other way to get around. And that's the only reason that fire station was ever built. A little education there for you.
And you still think 10 years out before we need?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just the way it's building.
Any other questions at this point? Okay.
Fire Station 2 land. We talked about this, I think, in the last year. Fire Station 2 currently, which is right down the road from, you see it every day. It's been maxed out. It was built in the 1960s. There's 4 people there during the day and 3 people at night. It houses an engine company, a boat, a tanker, a backup engine company, and an ATV. You can't get all those trucks out of a fire station with 4 people. It ain't gonna happen. So the future, again, is there's a beautiful plot of land on Irvin Cook Road, 6 acres that is available. If you see, that's the infrastructure that's coming to that Irvin Cook Road with access to Burkdale, proposed park. Irvin Cook Road, obviously another road that's going to go into the backside of Winfield. Again, future. Don't think now, but think in the later on when you're going to need another, more staffing at a fire station that you can't do nothing with. It's been expanded as much as it can. And so if we bought this lot, later on in the years, this one will probably happen before Station 5, believe it or not, because there's so much growth in that area. Again, we have access going back up to the Highway 73, which gives us access to the lake, which we have to provide coverage for. It also gives us back to access to Bays Ford Road. So there's a lot of roadways coming into that area. Again, you would not build this until the roadways are built. So we wouldn't even think about destroying Station 2 or anything has to do with that until the roadways are built for this. But it is future. I think you can't go wrong with this. This is a 6-acre lot, so it's not dramatically over crazy size or anything like that. Any questions on Station 2? Go ahead, sir.
I do, but I guess, Anthony, Do we even know what we've offered or the cost of that land yet? 'Cause I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
So we have had conversations. It lands in a trust, and Emily probably had to help me here, but it's somewhat complicated, and we had to try to find potential owners and had to do a lot of paperwork to find that out. But they are willing to sell that property, and we're in negotiations with them. Emily, anything else to kind of piggyback on that?
No, that's accurate. It's wrapped up in an estate currently, and the estate has not closed as of yet, but conversations with the heirs have suggested that they are willing to sell it to the town, should the town wish to move forward.
And we have given them a price based off an appraisal.
what's that price?
400, is that right?
The appraised value is $300,000.
Is that what we offered, appraised value?
Appraised value is, yes, whatever the appraised value was, I don't have it in front of me. I thought it was higher than 300, but maybe it is 300.
If memory serves, it was $300,000, and we did offer the appraised value.
All right. And Chief, you talked about the roads, and I'm glad you did, because, you know, the one thing, and you said it's for the future and probably happened before Station 5, and that's, right now, that's it's kind of an access road that gets us over to 73. I mean, as far as I've seen on our projects, that's not a funded road from CRTPO or anything else. I don't know how the town is, do you know, does anybody know how we're funding this road?
Yeah, so the 73, I guess, that comes down from 73, there's a subdivision that has, I think, got approved. I don't know if it's gone through approval with the board. Stephen's shaking his head, yes. Actually, I have a meeting with them sometime this week to talk about some right-of-way issues out there. So that would take it down to the corner where the top of the, I guess, the northern portion of the red, not quite there, but down towards the northern portion of the red. And then the other portions that where the roundabout goes into Burkdale, I think is on our CIP, Stephen. I can't remember what year, but that's on our CIP. And then as far as the southern portion, actually, of that triangle lot that we're looking at, if I recall, obviously it's not a thoroughfare right now, but the asphalt goes pretty close to that of the existing roadway now.
Yeah, and that existing roadways, you've got cars on both sides. It was not built to handle a fire truck to come through a neighborhood.
Yeah, it's, well, now say that section through the farm itself, there's a state-maintained road, if I recall. Yes, it's not a 20-foot wide road, but if we had to use that, and the chief's talking, 5 years at, earliest, probably more like 10 years out, that could be used. But the other roads are NICIP. I don't know about the thoroughfare portion out towards, what year, Stephen? So that's on the future CIP.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is something you will see every year because it changes every year. It's amazing what a fire truck obviously costs. And these are not the most expensive and they're not the cheapest. But with the way COVID has really affected the building of fire apparatus and the whole steel industry and aluminum industry, they're raising about 6 to 8% a year now. We planned this out like 5% a year, but now that we're talking to manufacturers, I mean, they're looking at 6 to 8%, increases. The Huntersville Fire Department was able to buy 3 fire trucks. I signed the paperwork last year. They'll probably come in December of this year, 2022. At one time, we were just going to do 2. The manufacturer came to us with a deal and said, hey, if you buy a 3rd one, we'll give it to you at this discounted rate. That other 3rd truck was scheduled to be basically replaced in 2026. So we moved it up 4 years because of the deal. And it's something, I guess, that when I look at these kind of deals and look at the money that's involved, when you're talking about $750,000 fire trucks and they're going up 8% a year, do I spend $750,000 now or do I pay $1 million later on for the same fire truck that I needed anyway? And I say that to you, no matter what you're going to be approving, is that it's never going to cost cheaper later on. I don't care if you're buying a fire truck, the town hall, or a piece of land. What it costs now is going to be the cheapest it's going to be, because later on, it's just going to go up higher. So, I didn't want to drag my feet, and I felt making that decision to buy 3 when you're going to need them anyway was the better decision, to take a deal when I can, because it's not very often that, someone buys 3 fire trucks. The city of Charlotte buys 10 a year, but, the town and us, we don't. It's also a breakdown of what the future fire trucks that are being built. Probably the next big one is the one highlighted in green, which is a heavy rescue truck, 2024, and it's probably going to cost, I won't doubt, by the time we buy that, $1 million or more. They're very expensive. What you pay for now, in 20 years, it'll be double. When we used to buy $500,000 fire trucks, 20 years later, they're $1 million. I mean, they don't go down. I wish they did, but it's crazy.
Commissioner Barty?
What's the trade-in value on these trucks when we go out and we purchase a new vehicle?
Right, so those 3 trucks that get replaced, they'll be put on the, whether it be a Facebook marketplace or, to reach out to other towns that are desperate for them. You might get, if you could get $80,000 for them, that's about all you're going to get out of a fire truck after it's 20 years old. Fire trucks sit in the worst case scenarios. When you got your car in the garage and it's a hailstorm, or and you hear that the hurricane's coming, these apparatus are outside, so they're dinged up. They go through a lot. The equipment's on them 20 years old. Nobody wants a 20-year-old camera that sees in the dark when that's as big as this monitor that's on there, and now they make them as big as your hand. So you're getting rid of 20-year-old equipment also when you buy these fire trucks.
Any other questions? Okay.
There's a picture of your new fire truck. It is probably one of the smallest, as far as length-wise, fire trucks that we have ever purchased. And a lot that you see when it comes to fire trucks is you see Chicago Fire and you see New York City and what they have, and it's like, why can't I have that small fire truck? Well, your ISO rating in North Carolina, they give you a nice big book, as just like the one I gave you, and they say, this is the stuff we want to see on a fire truck. And then by the time you put all that stuff on a fire truck, guess what happens? It lengthens, because you have to have the equipment on there. You got to have the storage space. Of course, you got to have, the people to fit in it, but you can't do nothing about that. You can't do nothing about the engine or anything else, or the bumper. So that's why you see a little bit difference in North Carolina fire trucks, maybe compared to a larger city like your Chicagos and stuff like that, because ISO comes in, they say, hey, I don't care if you're the city of Charlotte, or I don't care if you live in the mountains, I want you to have this kind of equipment on the fire truck. Makes it, equal. But that is a picture of your fire truck, and you'll see it in 2022, or at the end of it. Budget increase. Every other year, we look at raises. We don't come to you for raises every year, because we're hourly employees, and trying to give somebody a quarter or 50 cents doesn't really, ain't no excitement in that. So we try to wait and do it every other year. That's what it costs us to try to get everybody up to $1 more an hour. I do not compare us to anybody else except for the 3 towns when it comes to pay. There's no sense in me telling you what the city of Charlotte pays me, because you can't compare it. So if we just keep up with the 3 towns, I've always felt that's the best way to compare pay, because we don't want anybody that's going to leave Huntersville to go to Cornelius. And I'm sure it's the same way with the police department or anybody else. But that is what the 3 towns are currently paying their firefighters and drivers and captains. That's what it costs to get the whole 113 members increase, trying to get them up to $1. And I think me and Dan Boone, and we sat down together, and we were really trying to get them to that number. And again, you won't see this next year, so don't expect that you'll see another $286,000. The additional requests, fuel is outrageous right now, as we can see, and it's supposed to increase. We have spent our fuel budget already in February for we did for a whole year last year, because of the prices have just gone, nuts. What you see underneath that's the Knox box security key. That is going to be put in every fire truck if you approve it. Next to Janet's office, there's a little box on the side of her door on the side there. If the fire alarm goes off here, Target, anywhere, myself and the firefighters that are inside those fire trucks have a special key. We open that box, it has the town hall keys in there. We enter the building, make sure everything's good. We lock the building on our way out, and it doesn't allow us to break in your doors or anything like that. To get into that key access, you have to have your social security number. The social security number releases that key, it flashes to make sure you put that key back in there. So it's a very secure key. There's some criminals that would love to have one of those keys because they could access basically, probably 90% of the Kohl's and Targets and everything else that we have around here, even your schools. Everybody has a Knox box that's set up like that. Radio access fees, that's pretty simple. Basically, Motorola has gone up on their rates. Everybody lost money last year, so everybody has increased their rates. It's a one-time rate increase, they say, but who knows? Together with those additionals and then with the raises, your total increase is $319, $311.
Any questions? Commissioner Kidwell?
Chief, 12,000 on additional fuel. So having worked for a service company, filling up just, a standard F-150, I know what I was paying a year ago, what I'm paying now. Is 12,000 enough? I mean, costs have almost doubled,
Right.
as for fuel.
Right. When I made this last month, without hearing the rumors of who's going to war and, things are going to get crazy, I put that in there. I don't know if it's going to be enough. I'll be honest with you. We've already spent our budget, for now, what the cost was. And I think in your books, I have maybe $50,000. So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea.
Okay.
I didn't want to overshoot, and I didn't want to, if I did go under, I understand that. But I'm just estimating.
Yeah, I just know just driving back and forth to work, I know what I fill up with, so.
And when you only get 10 miles per gallon, it goes pretty quick.
At 10? That's awesome.
Certain fire
Commissioner
trucks.
Boone?
Thank you, Chief. Are you having a hard time finding employees, firefighters?
As long as the city of Charlotte keeps hiring their recruit classes and the city of Concord keeps the flow coming in, there's always part-time firefighters that want part-time work.
Thank you.
Any other
And
questions?
that's never going to stop, I don't think.
Commissioner Phillips?
I'm going to ask you this every year. I'm sitting up here. Is it time to get a cat, the dog?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get you a cat or a dog one day. And I'm going to walk in here with them. But yeah, have you met
I'm Kat's
dog?
biggest fan, so.
your cat's biggest fan? Okay.
We met her at the emergency management, and I've been in contact with her person here and there just to keep up, because I know they've added another. But, we had that really bad situation in Huntington Green.
Yep.
And all I could think about was, man, if we had a cat up here, Cat the dog. She's a therapy dog, and her name's Cat. She's the best. I've actually seen her work, so when that in Huntington Green happened, I thought about that. Like, that would have been a great thing to have her up here at, like Caterpillar Ministries or something. So, just have to throw it out there.
Little story, when firefighter Jeff Hager died, Cat was up here for a week. And Cat spent the week up here at this fire station. And, Cat was a big help. I mean, when you got that kind of motion going on and everything that was going on with it, to have a dog just walk around and just be your friend, just sometimes you need that little bit of break. So, thumbs up to Cat, and she did her job.
Any other questions?
Thank you. All right.
you finished?
I'm sure you come and stop in and see me.
Thank you so very much, Chief. Greatly appreciated. I'm sure if the board has additional questions, we can reach back out. We need to take a brief moment. Our next item 6B is Ms. Pearlie Curtin Thomas, and she's going to be doing a presentation for us for Black History Month. She could not be here in person, so we're calling her in. The board has, she did give me a packet of what she will be covering this evening, so each of you should have that. Hi, Ms. Thomas. How are you this evening?
I'm doing just fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, so I think we can all hear you in the boardroom. Thank you for joining us this evening. Ms. Thomas, I'm going to turn it over to you as you do your presentation.
Okay, thank you so very much. And good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share what I believe is a very important historic vision within our Huntersville community. The project started as an outgrowth of my love for the history of my church, Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, founded in 1868, and then for the desire to save an old farmhouse built in 1924 from being destroyed. I felt it was a very important part of the history of the Huntersville community and that it should be saved. So by 1991, Mount Olive owns a farmhouse, so I proposed the idea of the property being used for a church museum. Now, church history isn't something that most people get excited about, but in my research and laying the groundwork for this project, I learned that the history of the church had a tremendous impact on all of our institutions, the cultural, social, political, and economic. So by February 2011, the farmhouse property, known as the Loring Farmhouse, named after its original owner, was designated a local historic landmark by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission. And doing my research, interestingly, I learned that when the slaves were brought over, they embraced the Christian religion of their white masters. They attended the same church as their white masters. They learned about a loving God who freed the Hebrew slaves in Egypt and believed that this same God will free them as well. So they embraced the Christian faith, but was denied the opportunity to worship God in their own way through singing, clapping their hands, use of homemade instruments, and dance. So the slaves began to steal away in private spaces so that they could worship in their own way. Hence, even today, making 11 o'clock a.m. on Sunday the most segregated time in America. So it was the strong desire to worship God in their own way and to be free to participate fully in church worship that led to the separation. So the museum will tell a comprehensive story of the emergence of the African American church from slavery to present. Now, I sent some packets there, and if you would refer to the brochure that I included in the package, it includes the three-part phase of the museum and restoring the farmhouse to the museum and the stages that it would take. So if you have the brochure in front of you, I'll go over that very quickly. The phase one of it you see is restoration and construction, which involves the restoration work on the farmhouse itself, constructing a replica of the brush harbor that was one of the first worship spaces, Mount Olive, as well as other churches during the historic era. Uncover the first baptistry that was built under the ground or in the ground, still under the ground in our parking lot at the church. We want to uncover that. And also connect the church cemetery with the historic project as well, because many churches during this time had cemeteries in the back of their church in the lawn. Phase two involves interpreting the history of the church, where we collect artifacts, furniture, musical instruments, and all of those things that will help us interpret the history along the way. And then, of course, phase three is education and research. We want to develop a curriculum of the African American Museum so that it aligns itself with state and local objectives so that children can make the tour as well, and that we can be on the sort of a touring circuit of some other historic sites in the Huntersville area. And of course, we want to develop partnerships with the established historic sites such as Roar Hill, Hopewell Presbyterian Church, as well as connect with some of the universities in the area. So that's sort of a bird's eye view of the historic project with the vision of it being an African-American museum of church history. Now, if you would look again in your folder, I've included some pictures, a couple of articles. The first one deals with the Old House New Vision. That was one of the first articles that talked about Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church to turn a once rural homestead into a museum dedicated to our local African-American church history. So that was an article early on that introduced the project and the vision to the community in Huntersville. And then the next article is the one that's entitled Historic Farmhouse Preserves the Past. It's an article talking about the Lauren home receiving the historic recognition that I mentioned just a little earlier. And then finally, we've included some pictures that are before and after that will give you some idea of the work that we've already completed on the house. You'll see the original picture there before we did any work at all in it, the house. The roof was very bad, leaking inside, and so one of the first things we did was to repair the roof, and we replaced it with a tin roof that we felt was more indicative of the time. And as you see below, we also included some stairs with rails and repaired that work on the house. If you would turn the page, you will see a before and after picture. Of course, the house has the porch on the back, as many others had during that time. And you will see how the back porch, or the condition of the back porch before we did any work on it at all. And then below you will see the after, the picture after the work has been done on the back part of the house. And then if you turn the page, the final picture shows you what the house looks like now. And of course, there's a sign there of the future home of the African American Museum of Church History. And of course, the last page includes community involvement with some ideas and ways that the community can get involved with the museum project, because we certainly desire that it can become a reality in the community, in the Huntersville community, that will draw people not only from Huntersville, but from the surrounding areas and even nationally. So I'm just very pleased and thankful for the opportunity to share this vision with you. And at this time, if you have any questions that you would like to ask concerning what I've just shared with you, I would be delighted to entertain any of those.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm hoping that the town of Huntersville will reach out to you so you can be part of the Huntersville Sesquicentennial or 150th birthday. But I'm sure that you could add to that program.
And Commissioner Boone,
Yes, I think I heard part of what you said relative to the celebration of the Huntersville 150th birthday.
Right. I'm going to have somebody from that committee. I think Sam James is the chairperson, to make sure that he contacts you to see if you have anything that you would like to participate in that program.
Right, and I think if I'm hearing you clearly, we were invited to have a representative there, and we should have someone attending. Beatrice Springs.
That's great. Thank you very much.
I would say thank you, Ms. Thomas, for bringing forth your history for us and for us to share. The work that you're doing out there in preserving history out in the area is just such a blessing. And I will tell the board, I have already shared with Ms. Thomas, while they have a representative on the 150th committee, I'm also connecting them with Abigail Jennings as well. with all the history that she's working to preserve with Ingleside and with Cedar Grove. I think that connection makes a lot of sense. And so just making sure that history is preserved and that we're preserving all of Huntersville's history, because that is the very important part of who we are as a community. So thank you, Ms. Thomas, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, and have a good night.
All right, folks, we have a proclamation, and you all have been so patient because it is now 7 o'clock. So thank you. But if you wouldn't mind joining me. Let me get my reading glasses. I might need these. So we have a proclamation this evening. Should I do it here or am I good? All right, here we go. We have a proclamation this evening. Whereas the town of Huntersville is proud to be the home of citizens of Irish American descent, and whereas more than 30 million Americans are of Irish American descent, and since our nation's inception and throughout our history, brave men and women and children, longing for a better life and yearning for freedom and opportunity, made the journey to the United States in search of a better life. And whereas Irish American citizens have made significant economic and cultural contributions to our nation, and their influences can be found in every walk of life. Now, therefore, I, Melinda Bales, Mayor of the town of Huntersville, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as Irish American Heritage Month in the town of Huntersville and commend its observance to all citizens. In witness whereof, I do hereby set my hand and cause to the seal of this town to be affixed the 21st day of February 2022. Thank you. Okay, now we are going to move to agenda changes.
No public comments.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, we do have public comments. I need to put my glasses on. First up is Ms. B.J. Caldwell. Ms. Caldwell, if you will join us. During public comments, each speaker has 3 minutes, and we have a timer. And the time limit will be enforced. But Ms. Caldwell, if you wouldn't mind stating your name and your address for the record.
Hello, thank you for having me, and I'm Betty B.J. Caldwell. I reside at 14521 New Haven Drive in Huntersville. And my comments are tonight based on your giving permission for the Little Rosenwald School Number 2 to be a rental again. So I'm just going to move right on. A sincere thank you goes out to the mayor, commissioners, staff, and Huntersville residents who attended and/or participated in this once-in-a-lifetime event. It was a great success. And the title of it was For a Special Conversation for One Night and One Night Only, introducing Mr. Michael Connor as he gave voice to Mr. Julius Rosenwald and Mr. Booker T. Washington. With thanks to God, the ancestors, town officials, the folk who prayed for the Little Rosenwald School to once again become a rental, our voices must sound out to those responsible. You, and you are acknowledged and appreciated. Now we're saying a collective thank you to all who played a part in this endeavor. And below, I want to share some of the sentiments from our guests. It was a great Black History program with input from community residents. It was evident that the cast learned from caring teachers at an early age how to interact with others. Hearing former students reminisce about their school days at the Little Rosenwald School Number 2 for Black children was delighted to hear. One person spoke so passionately about her time there that you could feel the love that she still has for it. It was all right, very nice. Everyone enjoyed it and was together. We mingled. The blacks did not cling to one corner, and neither did the whites. It was creative, historical, informative, monumental, well-attended, and intergenerational. I enjoyed it. It was good. The voice of the famous guest could have been longer. It reminded me of being in grade school as a child. I thoroughly enjoyed the program held at the Rosenwald School Number 2 for Black children on Tuesday evening. Learning about Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington's reasons for facilitating the education of Black children was awesome. Hearing former students of, did I hear the bell? Oh, I'm sorry. Hearing former students of the 100-year-old school reminisce about their days attending it was endearing and full of pride and sincere love. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for allowing us to have access to that beautiful little building. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. It truly was a wonderful event. The next speaker is Crystal Silas.
That's okay, I have terrible writing. It's Silvis.
I said it wrong.
No. My name's Crystal Silvis. I am at 13925 Beatty'sford Road. Real fast, congratulations, Ms. Caldwell, that's amazing. My daughter learned this year that her and her brother wouldn't have been able to go to the same school, and it's been interesting. Thank you for standing up for that. Anyways, Community School of Davidson, I am back 3.5 months later. We haven't really made progress. Still, nothing has been done about the noise. If this isn't done by fall, it's going to continue to be at least 30 decibels higher during a game at all of the surrounding properties. You can hear this miles away. The lights are still on, multiple, usually 5 nights a week. We were told that they were fixed. This is not fixed. This is still a mile away, and you're not supposed to be able to even read. It's 0.1 foot candles. This is clearly well over 50, which is where you would read at. Nothing's being done. I have requested what the foot candles were prior to the fixing and after, and still haven't received them. I know that I'll receive them for afterwards, after the engineer is done confirming, but we as a community would like to know what they were to begin with, especially now knowing, and you'll see the occupancy hold details. Our town knew about this last February 2020. Nothing was done after it was found to not be in compliance, but it was signed off on March 25th of 2020. All of these people have been dealing with this. It has been brought multiple times by multiple people in our community, and nothing has been done until I brought physical pictures, despite the fact that our town knew. Further, this is a stadium. I have gone through all of our ordinances, and I've given you the definitions right from our ordinances. This has seating, it's permanent seating, and it was allowed under outdoor recreation, which it also does not comply with because that is supposed to be operated with a commercial or membership basis, which it is not. This was allowed without any input from any of the surrounding communities when really it did not comply with the zone. I'm asking that you guys please get back with us. We understand there's nothing that can be done now as far as them being there, but they can bring their structure, bring their games into compliance with our ordinance instead of just telling the cops to leave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will now move to agenda changes.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Oh, I apologize.
Sorry.
I failed to write my name, my note down here. We do need to read this other into the public record, please. Mayor Bales, Commissioners, and Clerk. I'm writing regarding today's board meeting and request this comment be included in the official minutes for tonight's meeting. I'm thrilled to find item 9I on this evening's agenda. Consider approval of purchase agreement for 105 North Maxwell Street. This key parcel completes a beautiful recommendation shared in the 2006 Downtown Master Plan. I would challenge you to revisit the ideas and colorful images shared that include a beautiful civic core, including a town hall annex, outdoor growers market with beautiful outdoor green space, and additional parking with easy access to Veterans Park. We must include outdoor green space in future civic plans. The COVID pandemic has forever changed our world, and it's crucial to include outdoor gathering areas that allow all citizens, no matter their health status, to safely engage in town activities. This is an exciting time in our town, and we have the opportunity to grab the bull by the horns and claim a large portion of downtown Huntersville and assist in creating the downtown destination location our community has desired for years. I hope and pray this vote will be unanimous to approve purchase, and I hope each of you will share your desires for future use of this property. Thank you for your time and service to our town. Submitted by Gateway Campbell, 104 Interlochen Place, Huntersville, today, Monday, February 21st at 12:30 p.m. Thank you very much. Now we can go to agenda changes.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
So with the understanding that I believe we will sort out past issues with consent agenda, I would like to make a motion to pass the agenda with no changes.
I would like to second that.
I have a motion. There is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed?
See, we can work.
Seeing none? See, we can work together. We will now move to public hearings. Seeing none? I'm going down my checklist. I need to wear these. Now other business, item 9A. It's a quasi judicial. Conduct evidentiary hearing and consider decision on petition special use permit 21-06, a request by RSRV Power on behalf of Karen Butler of parcel ID number 015-33303 to allow solar panels on the front roof slope of the home. Mr. Farber? Give me just a moment.
Yes.
I need to get my script. Okay, this hearing is a quasi-judicial hearing on the application submitted for special use permit 21-06 solar installation. Quasi-judicial hearings are evidentiary in nature. Only parties withstanding, including the applicant, property owner, local government, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages, have the right to participate fully in the hearing. Special damages must be particularized, separate, and distinct from damages to the public at large. Special damages are a fact-specific inquiry. While proximity may bear weight in the determination of special damages, proximity in and of itself is insufficient to grant standing. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Other individuals may, but are not required to, allowed to participate or speak as a witness. However, they will not be allowed to participate fully as a party, such as by questioning other witnesses or by calling other persons to testify. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. General witness testimony is limited to facts, not personal preferences or opinions. Certain topics require expert witnesses, including projections about impacts on property values and traffic impacts. Individuals providing expert opinion testimony must be qualified as experts and provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. Mere conclusionary testimony lacking the foundation of the expert's opinion is insufficient to establish the existence or non-existence of a fact or conclusion. The board must base quasi-judicial decisions upon competent, material, and substantive evidence in the record. Competent evidence is evidence that is sufficiently trustworthy and reliable, and that is legally fit and acceptable for consideration by the board. Speculative, irrelevant, or vague evidence, non-expert opinions as to something that requires an expert, and non-accepted hearsay evidence will likely not be competent evidence. Material evidence is evidence that shows that the standards will or will not be met. Evidence is substantial if it is relevant and regarded by a reasonable person as sufficient to support a specific conclusion. Speculation, unsubstantiated fears of the community, or vague assertions do not constitute substantial evidence. Quasi-judicial hearings are constrained by the standards in the ordinance and the facts presented. Even though the board may hear other evidence, it is not objected to. The board should rely on competent material and substantial evidence in making its decision. Now, the board will recognize the applicant as a party as well as the property owners. Is the applicant here? I'm sorry, this is very rigid this evening, but we'll get it right. Are there other persons who believe they have standing to participate fully as a party? Seeing none. Do you intend to call witnesses this evening?
I do not.
You do not. Okay. The parties in this case are entitled to an impartial board. A board member may not participate in this hearing if she or he has a fixed opinion about the matter, a financial interest in the outcome of the matter, or a close relationship with an affected person. Does any board member have any conflicts of interest to offer at tonight's meeting? Seeing none. I'd like to call on planning staff for the presentation of their staff report. And I'm getting to that. It's right here. At this time, we'd like to have you both sworn in. Do we know where the Bible is? You have it. Perfect. I just didn't see it. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall Yes? Oh, absolutely. Thank you all. When I have the glasses on, I can't see the distance. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you both. To the applicant, do you wish to speak or testify this evening? Do you wish to speak or testify this evening, sir?
If necessary.
Okay. Mr. Faber?
Okay. I'll submit my staff report into the record. And this special use permit is a request to place solar panels on the front roof slope at 11913 Henderson Hill Road. Minor residential solar energy facilities facing a public street or common open space are allowed within the rural district with issuance of a special use permit. And here's just a quick aerial overview of the property, an overhead look. And then this is where the solar panels will be placed on the roof within the subdivision, and a better look of where those solar panels will be placed. And Planning staff do recommend the SUP. And if you guys have any questions, I can answer that for you.
Okay, so does the board have any more, or any questions for the parties or witnesses at this time?
Just for
Commissioner Kidwell?
Just for legal, because I don't want to keep the applicant here any longer than he's been here. Are we moving forward with becoming compliant with the state legislation so this does not have to come in front of us again?
Yes, there's a proposed text amendment. It's going to be on the HOAB agenda for March.
Any other questions at this time? Commissioner Boone?
Thank you. I have a question for the applicant. And I know, Ms. Faber, you might have to answer this. Have you had any complaints from your HOA or any neighbors?
No, sir.
Okay, and could you please give me your name?
Justin Mickelson.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Does the board have any more questions for the parties before we move into deliberation? Hearing no additional questions or presentation of relevant facts, the board will now begin deliberation. The evidentiary hearing remains open so that the board may ask clarifying questions if needed. As a reminder, this board is tasked with deciding if, based on competent material, substantive evidence presented at the hearing before this board, this proposal meets the applicable standards. If the applicant meets their burden of producing competent material and substantial evidence that the standards in the ordinance will be met, the burden shifts to other parties, since we have no other conflicting parties. We can move. Is there a motion on the floor?
I have a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Phillips.
This is my first quasi-judicial, please bear with me. In considering the special use permit SUP 21-06 solar panels for 11913 Henderson Hill Road, we, the town board, find the request meets all the required criteria for granting a special use permit for minor residential solar energy facilities facing a public street or common access space as outlined in the zoning ordinance. The town board grants SUP 21-06 and the applicant has acknowledged that all required approvals and permits will be obtained. Staff will follow up with the applicant to ensure all applicable permits are obtained. The solar energy facilities will not be considered rooftop equipment and screening or architectural standards are not required. The applicant has provided documentation stating that the solar panels have an anti-reflective coating. As such, staff believes that the minor solar energy facility will not cause potentially injurious effect on adjacent properties or pedestrian or vehicular traffic.
There's a motion on.
Second. Stacy, can you refer to Part 8 at page 5 of this? We do need to add on some language if you are adopting staff's findings of fact for the standards to grant it. We just need to add that on.
Page 5?
Yes, it's page 5 of this item.
The incorporate staff findings part?
Yes, if that's
Okay.
what you're basing it on.
Do I have to reread the whole thing?
No, you can just add that you're incorporating staff findings of
All right,
fact.
incorporate staff findings or facts, the standards to grant SUP 21-06, incorporate staff findings and facts, numbers, specifically which one?
Just A.
All right,
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
I have a second from Commissioner Munger. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you. Thank you very much. We can close this quasi-judicial hearing. We will now move on to item 9B. Consider decision on petition R21-15, a request by TLO Properties Lake Norman to rezone 14520 Beatties Ford Road. Mr. Farber?
Okay, and I'll submit this staff report into the record as well. For this rezoning, The site is 7.9 acres of a total 20-acre lot. The applicant is TLO Properties Lake Norman, and this is at 14520 Beatties Ford Road. So a little background on this property. The map you see in front of you shows the current zoning districts on top of the previously approved rezoning and subdivision plan from 2005. The previous rezoning was for a 60-lot residential subdivision on 64 acres. When the proposed subdivision consisted of two separate properties, it ultimately fell through, and the northern lot is what we have today. The current owner, the applicant, is proposing a general rezoning to remove the rural conditional district rezoning and transitional residential zone associated with the R0513 rezoning so that the entire parcel will be zoned rural. Because this is a general rezoning, the application does not have a site plan or any conditions associated with the request. The property under the proposed general rezoning would be less dense than the existing conditions on the property, as the higher density TR and the conditions of the 2005 rezoning will be removed. If approved, all uses allowed in the R district will be permitted. And this just shows that the site is within the rural conservation area on our 2040 plan. And it fits within the proposed R zoning fits within this plan. And this is kind of a overhead shot. And if you guys have any questions, I can answer those for you.
So we'll open up the floor for questions. We'll open up the floor for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I have prepared a motion, but this is the first motion I've ever made that we're going from a transitional residential to just rural. It's the first time that I can ever remember that. But in considering the proposed rezoning of the petition R21-15 at 14520 Beatties Ford Road, the town board finds the rezoning is consistent with the Huntersville zoning articles 11.4, 11.7D and 11.4.7E, and the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan Policies LU 2.2, LU 3.1, as outlined in Part 4 of the staff report. It is reasonable and the public interest to rezone this property because the rural zoning will be consistent with the character and uses adjacent to the subject property, and the entire property will have one zoning district instead of three.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Kovacs is there. Now I will open the floor up for discussion. Seeing none, we'll call the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Farber. We will now move to item 9D. Did I skip 9C? Hold on.
Yes.
I did. It's one of those nights. I'm sorry, folks. Move to item 9C. This is a petition TA 21-14 for major subdivision definition changes. It says consider final action on petition TA 21-14 to amend sections within the zoning ordinance. I will turn it over to Mr. Priest.
Good evening. Thank you very much. At this time, I'll add the staff report into the record, please. And as was mentioned, we're considering final action for this text amendment. Well, that's interesting. Well, pay specific attention to what you see in the red circle there. I apologize, it didn't come through in the PowerPoint for some reason. But essentially, the purpose of this amendment is to change the definition of a major subdivision and a minor subdivision. One aspect of the change is making sure that if someone dedicates right-of-way to the town, that's not considered a major subdivision, and then they have to, if it was a major subdivision, they would have to come to the town board to get approval just to dedicate right-of-way. So that's a change. The second change, which was highlighted in your staff report and would be presented here in the PowerPoint, is that there was a modification after the public hearing. staff added a clarification. There was a process that was not clear in the subdivision ordinance what it was considered, major or minor subdivision, and that was a multi-building site. So staff made the change and tweaked it and added the clarification that a multi-building site, when you have multiple buildings on one lot, that's considered a major subdivision in consideration of other aspects of the ordinance. So those are the major changes there, as well as clarification of the process for farmhouse clusters. Well, there we go. You just got to hit the button. Okay. So that's where we were talking about also referring back to major subdivisions. And instead of listing what a minor is, just saying if you're not a major, then you're a minor. Multi-building sites was clarified. And again, clarifying the requirements, submittal requirements for farmhouse clusters. So that's what the text looks like. And again, the clarification that we wanted to bring to everyone's attention, that we added multi-building site to the definition of major subdivision. Minor subdivision, again in the red box, just erasing all the verbiage to make it nice and clear that if you're not a minor, you're a major. If you're not a major, you're a minor. Again, in that information on the bottom of the page there, clarifies the process for farmhouse clusters. No new requirements, just clarifying what's needed to show compliance to existing requirements. And then some other clarifications there, recommendations. Staff recommends approval. The Huntersville Ordinance Advisory Board back on November 4th unanimously recommended approval, and the Planning Board recommended approval unanimously on January 25th. So that's the end of my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, so we will move to have a motion on the floor.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for 9C. In considering the proposed amendment TA 21-14 to amend Section 2.100, Section 6.300, Section 6.310, and Section 6.520 of the subdivision ordinance, the town board recommends approval based on the amendment being consistent with policies EV 1.4, LU 9, LU 9.2, and LU 10. It is reasonable and in the public interest to amend the zoning ordinance for the following reasons. 1, it clears up the approval process while ensuring that items are addressed and rules are met. 2, to establish a proper path forward for farmhouse clusters that ensures that all those proposals are recommended and met. And 3, it encourages infill development, which often brings with it a diverse housing option.
There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay.
I was going to say this is a major development, and I'm very happy that we're doing this.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. There is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Now we can move to item 9D. Thank you, Mr. Priest. Mr. Trott, we have petition R21-04, Statesville Road Mixed-Use Rezoning in front of us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. A last-minute substitution here, so I'll keep the presentation short. So early on last year, Statesville mixed-use development was rezoned. As part of that development, they completed a traffic impact analysis, and that traffic impact analysis only had one phase. So that meant everything had to be done at the first initial development. Later on, about 2 months later, they came back and asked if they could phase their TIA improvements. So not changing the list of improvements, just breaking those into pieces. Along with that, none of the other development conditions changed. The town board approved breaking that into 2 pieces. This request is for breaking the 2 pieces into 3 pieces. So the list of improvements, the total list is not changing. It's just breaking those into phases or sub-phasing the TIA improvements. And that is basically the request, a list of those the phasing, the development types, and what improvements are incorporated or would be completed as part of each phase are listed. I can try to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Commissioner Boone?
No, I think he's going to say it.
I need to enter the staff report into the record.
Okay. All right. We'll entertain, the chair will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I believe this is the last one for me tonight. Petition R20-04, the Statesville Road Mixed-Use Rezoning. A motion to approve the Palillo Holdings LLC request to add Phase 3 to the TIA requirements approved as part of R20-04 Statesville Road Mixed Use. The town's engineering and planning department have reviewed the TIA revised submittal and determined that is consistent with the requirements of Article 14 of the zoning ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? Just making sure. Seeing no discussion? Yes? Just making sure. I keep hearing sounds. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Trott. We will move to item 9E. Consider adopting a resolution to waive rights for City of Concord to annex lands owned by Larry Stinson and Myra Stinson. Ms. Sloop?
Yes, good evening again, Board. We received a request from the City of Concord to waive our right to annex a very small sliver of land in our area of consideration pursuant to our annexation agreement that we have with the city. Planning staff has reviewed this request, and they feel that it is appropriate, given that for purposes of continuity of services, and also given that the roads that would provide such services would be maintained by the City of Concord. And this map shows where the property is located, and also here's an aerial overview. I'll try to answer any questions. I am standing in for Jack, so.
That is fine. I first would like to entertain a motion. Is there a motion on this one? Yes. Okay. Commissioner Kovacs.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, or to adopt a resolution to waive rights for Concord to annex lands owned by Larry Stinson and Myra Stinson.
Second.
I have a motion, and there is now a second. Commissioner Munger. Any discussion? Commissioner Kidwell.
Just reading through this, in that sliver of land or in that area, they're going to put 14 townhomes right behind the folks who live in that area. But my question, I'm just pointing that out because it's in the packet. But the question I have is, I don't see any information from the property owners asking for this. Is the town of Concord, the city of Concord, they're not guaranteeing it?
They're not guaranteeing that they will annex. They're just asking us to waive our right to annex it. And also, I believe that this request has been based on an application that the owner submitted to the City of Concord.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, the owners were involved, because can't put some, government was kind of tricky sometimes.
Any other questions? Seeing none, there is a motion on the floor and there is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. We'll now move to item 9F. This is the two-pole building at Siegel Street project. Mr. Jaycox.
Good evening, everybody. In front of you tonight is to consider a resolution and a construction contract with Danforth Construction for two pole buildings at the Siegel Complex. This project was approved and funded in the current fiscal year. One building is for the police department storage needs, and the other building is for Parks Rec storage needs. As you're probably aware, we're very short on storage for pretty much all departments. Good news is the lowest bid came in under budget, so we're excited about that, and I want y'all to consider approving the construction contract tonight. If you have any questions, I can answer.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution and construction of contract with Don Forth Construction Group LLC to construct a two-pole building at Siegel Street in the amount of $438,490, which will come from funds approved from fiscal year '22 that has been budgeted.
Second.
There's a motion, there is a second. Thank you, Commissioner Munger. And we'll open the floor up for discussion.
Yes.
Commissioner Munger.
This is a weird thing for me to geek out about, but I'm so happy we're building this thing. We need storage so badly. And I appreciate staff pursuing this and getting this done. So I just want to commend you. Thank you.
Commissioner Kidwell.
So I'm not going to geek out. But I do have questions. Is this an enclosed building?
So the police department's a 5-bay, 2 enclosed,
All right.
and then Parks and Rec, 6-bay, 3 enclosed.
Okay, because when you say two-pole building, I'm thinking of a pole barn lean-to. Yeah, so I just want to clarify that.
With split-face block closed
Yeah.
section.
And the area where we're going to be building this, obviously, access for personnel, secured fencing, cameras, such like that.
All that is already existing at the current complex.
Okay, very good. Just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. We'll now move on to item 9G, the North Mac Park Synthetic Turf Agreement with the Carolina Miners Lacrosse. Mr. Jaycox?
So the next 2 items pretty much go hand in hand. So just in case you're not familiar, there's 2 full-size soccer fields that are lit at the back of North Mac Park. That's on the screen with the trail that goes around it. Fields are about 21 years old. So we're planning to request $250,000 in operating capital to redo the fields to help with the drainage. Like you see here, the drainage and the loss of a crown on a field, especially a natural grass field, is very difficult to get to drain. So that field really needs to be renovated. So as we looked at renovating these fields, we thought, well, is there an opportunity for a partnership? And so we reached out to Strikers originally, who's been a predominant user of those fields, about a potential turf agreement back in March. At that time, they said they weren't interested, something they could not do at the time. At the same time, the Carolina Miners has been looking for a partnership at Huntsville Athletic Park. Unfortunately, those fields are too small and aren't full size. It would take a lot of more work, grading, removing the walking trails, that kind of thing, and that's something we didn't want to do. So we said, well, how about we potentially partner you guys with Strikers? So we approached Strikers back in August saying, okay, Miners are willing to go half and half on this, so you each get 1 field and half the cost. Strikers still wasn't interested at that time. Independents showed interest, so we brought those 2 groups together. They both agreed on the draft of the agreement that's in front of you tonight. Agreement is somewhat similar to our existing agreements, except for it's a shorter period of time. So this agreement will give Miners and Independents first right of refusal for the North Mac soccer fields. We're estimating the cost and turf in these 2 fields between $1.8 million and $2.2 million. The 2 groups will pay between $147,600 to $180,400, which is 82% of the cost over 10 years. And like I mentioned, they'll receive priority usage. And all of our agreements, in case, for some reason, 8 years down the road, one of these groups just falls apart, lack leadership, or lose residents, and these agreements, if their numbers drop, then the number of field use they get at this complex will drop. So for whatever reason, their numbers drop below what would qualify based on our formula for this field, they would lose time. Now, the downfall is that this agreement would limit Strikers' primetime field usage at North Mac Park, and pretty much will be limited to primetime usage at our school fields, Huntsville Athletic Park, and Weymouth Park. The maintenance cost savings for synthetic turf is about $40,000 to $50,000 per year, and that's currently. So you get down 8 or 9 years from now, I don't think Charlotte Water is ever going to reduce the cost of water. Mowing's not going to get cheaper, fertilizer's not going to get cheaper, and staff costs are not going to get cheaper. So over that 10-year period, you're saving between $400,000 to $500,000. The max cost to the town after reimbursements is $396,000. By not doing synthetic turf, we would still have to spend the $250,000 next fiscal year in addition to the maintenance cost. So one of the options we looked at, well, can we figure something out like we did at Huntsville Athletic Park with the turf there, charging a higher rate? The difference between the two projects, one project is a lot more turf and it's 2 fields. The other project at Huntsville Athletic Park is 4 fields and not as much turf. So this in front is just an example, based on the hours of reserve usage at a affordable rate that actually people would pay to reserve, we don't think it's going to be possible to generate the same revenue as these agreements. So here you see North Mex soccer field, so you would need $73,800 per field of revenue per year, compared to the Huntsville Athletic Park fields, which $12,500 per year per field. So obviously, you can increase the rate to make up $12,500, but to get to $73,800, us and the Parks and Rec Commission did not think for us to come up to say, yes, that's possible, and then we only get half the revenue, we didn't feel comfortable with. So that's why the Parks and Rec Commission did endorse both of these agreements at their December 15th meeting, a unanimous vote, and open up to any questions.
So we will entertain a motion from the floor at this point. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to consider approving the North Mecklenburg Park synthetic turf agreement with the with the Carolina Miners Lacrosse.
There's a motion on the
Second.
floor. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Boone. All right, we'll now open the floor up for discussion. Commissioner Kidwell.
So I'm going to address item G, 9G and 9H together, like you said, Michael. And we've had, as a board, I know Derek and I have met with the Strikers organization. The board has received several emails. I've known Mr. Finley 7 or 8 years now. I know him to be a man of good character. I know his organization. I know a lot of families that play in that organization, and they are thrilled with what they're getting. They like the product. However, this is not about how great they are, how good they are, and how, awesome everyone is. For me, this is, and you kind of poked at it, and I'm not even looking at strikers at this point. I think if we do this, we're limiting field time for any other soccer club that may come in for primetime hours. So for me, it's not about how awesome Charlotte Independence is and the organization they've built over the years, because they play over at Bradford or Bradley Park down the street from me. It's at, see them, is it Bradley or Bradford? I can't remember. It's right over by Barry. Yeah, thank you. Get lost on the park sometimes. That's how many we have. And, like I said, friends play with them. This just comes down to, I'm concerned that we are setting the tone that we have one soccer club and only one soccer club for the town of Huntersville, and no one else can come forward. So for this agreement, and this is me speaking for myself, I just can't approve it on that idea. And I believe back in 2015 or 16, when I was on the board and we approved the artificial turf back then, or I actually may not have been on the board, but I know I was in favor of it because I thought it was a good deal for the town back then with the with the Charlotte Independence. So just want to say that. Thank you.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any additional discussion? Commissioner Munger?
Yeah, Mr. Jaycox, can you just kind of, and maybe briefly kind of highlight, are there other field locations that present opportunities for clubs other than Independence to play, practice, and?
So just to be clear, the motion on the floor is about the lacrosse minors contract,
I will save
not
that for the
about
second. My apologies, you're
Charlotte
correct.
Independence. I know, but they're not. They are, but they're not. So that's the motion currently on the floor. Any additional conversation around the Carolina Miners lacrosse contract? All right. Seeing none, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, the motion carries 5-1. We will now move to item 9H. Item 9H is the North Mac Park Synthetic Turf Agreement with Charlotte Independent Soccer Club. Mr. Jaycox.
So basically, unless you want me to repeat myself, exact same thing. Stacy said no, so.
All right, so seeing that there's no additional information coming from Mr. Jaycox, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Partee?
In consideration for the North Mecklenburg Park Turf. In consideration, the North Mecklenburg Park Turf Agreement with the Charlotte Independent Soccer Club, the town board recommends approval of the field use and turf agreement contract.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Partee. I have a second from Commissioner Phillips. We'll now open the floor up for any discussion. Commissioner Munger.
Now that it's appropriately timed, are there any other field locations within Huntersville that provide opportunities for soccer clubs other than Charlotte Independence to practice and play?
Yeah, so Waymer Park, Huntsville Athletic Park, and then all of our school joint use agreements, Alexander Middle School, Bradley Middle School, so those would be the other fields.
In addition to the fact that if Charlotte Independence does pass, they would also have opportunity on these fields as well.
Right, yeah. Yep. I mean, there's been other activities happening on the other fields that they have agreements with, lacrosse tournaments, there's been flag football tournaments, there's been adult rentals just to use turf fields, so there's been quite a bit of other use other than just Independence.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I have a motion, and there is a second on the floor. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried 5-1. Thank you, Mr. Jaycox. We will now move to item 9I. It's a purchase agreement for 105 North Maxwell Street. Mr. Roberts.
You should have the purchase agreement in your packet. It's for 1.343 acres for $775,000. If the board moves forward with this, closing is 60 days from February 21st. Examination due diligence period is 45 days from February 21st. And I'm sure someone will probably ask, so what's the reason for purchasing this property? I would say two things, to meet the need in 2006 downtown master plan and also for potential town hall expansion. Is that fast enough, or do you need more information?
That's fine. Is there a motion on the floor? Commissioner Kovacs?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement for purchase of real property at 105 Maxwell Street.
Is there a second? Second. Commissioner Partee? We'll now open the floor up for discussion. Commissioner Munger?
On this, do we have an appraisal contingency on this offer in the event it does not appraise at an appropriate value?
No, that is not included in the contract.
Follow-up, do we have any concerns around that? Like if it
appraisal?
came in at like
I can tell you-
100,000 less, we'll say?
Yeah, and that would be a board decision. However, the value on the property, I think is like 600 and, I'm around in 650 is tax value, and no one's selling their property at tax value these days. Wish, but no one is. And of course, we're getting ready to have a revaluation to come up. I was about my house and car, it will go up again. So I can give you that piece of information.
And one last question on that. Do we have any a deposit down at this time?
No, sir. No money was put in for deposit. It was straight 775 with no additional conditions on it.
Thank you.
Any additional? Commissioner Boone?
Yes, Anthony, one last question. Can you tell me what the intent to purchase this property is going to be for?
Well, hopefully the board make that decision, but the reason that we made an offer on this and the agreement were two things. One, the 2006 downtown master plan, and then two, a potential for town hall expansion. Those are the two things.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Well, the only thing that I will say on this purchase is regardless of whether it's used for a town hall or whether it's just frankly protecting our destiny in downtown and so that we have a little bit more control over what happens, I think that the board is making, for whatever it's worth, a very good decision to do so. So there is a motion on the floor. There is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried 6-0. Thank you all very much. And now we will move to item 9J. This is the audit contract. Staff is recommending that we reengage with Martin Starnes Associates for the 2021-2022 financial audit. I will turn it over to Ms. McGinnis.
Okay. Like Mrs. Bells, the mayor said, the staff recommends that we reengage Martin Starnes and Associates for the 2021-2022 financial audit. The contract has increased 5% due to new standards such as GASB 87 lease accounting and any other new standards that the GASB board has put out. In addition, there is a $3,500 fee associated with the single audit for additional testing due to uniform guidance associated with our federal programs. So that means the CARES Act money when we had it, that means ARPA funds, that means Main Street, that means if we do any construction work on Gilead. Anytime we get federal funds, there's a special set of rules that they have to do more audit work for.
Very good.
I will say that we do plan to do an RFP for the audit services in late November, December, get that together, and then come back to you in early 2023 with the results of that.
Thank you for that. Is there a motion? Commissioner Munger?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract to reengage Martin Starnes and Associates for the 2021-22 financial audit.
Second.
Commissioner Kidwell is the second. And we will now open the floor up for discussion. Commissioner Munger?
Yes, can you tell me how long Martin Starnes has been our auditor?
They have been our auditors for at least 15 years because I've been here 15 years.
Any other questions? Seeing none, there's a motion, there is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Now move to item 9K. Here we go. This is to consider appointments to the Huntersville Ordinance Advisory Board. I had sent out an email yesterday and then followed back up this morning. We will be appointing 4 individuals to the Ordinance Advisory Board. I will ask each one of you to give me 4 names. And our town clerk is going to tally those names. I'm going to try to do that too as we go, but hopefully we'll get it right. So we will start with Commissioner Boone.
My first nominee, you want
All 4.
Jones, Palillo, Klutz, Allman.
Jones, Palillo, Klutz, and Holman. All right. Commissioner Kovacs?
Jones, Hallman, Whitaker, Montague.
Whitaker and Montague. Okay. Kidwell?
Yes. Jones, Hallman, Marple, Price.
Commissioner Phillips?
Jones, Hallman, Klutz, Palillo.
And you said Palillo. Thank you. Commissioner Partee.
Jones, Holman, Klutz, Whitaker.
And Commissioner Munger.
Jones, Montague, Palillo, and Whitaker.
Okay, so Jones for sure. Holman. That's what I'm, so we've solidified 2, correct? And then there are 2 individuals with 3.
3 individuals.
3. There's 3, hold on. That's Whitaker, Palillo, and Klutz. That's the one I missed because my check marked. All right. So now we will go to those 3. Klutz, Palillo, and Whitaker. And we'll do this again. I need 2 names. Commissioner Boone,
Klutz and Palillo.
Commissioner Kovacs,
Klutz and Whitaker.
Commissioner Kidwell,
Klutz and Whitaker.
Commissioner Phillips,
Palillo and Klutz.
Commissioner Partee,
Klutz and Whitaker.
and Commissioner Munger.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. Palillo and Whitaker.
Oh, whoa. Palillo and Whitaker. So does that, what I have is Klutz and Whitaker. All right.
I concur.
Okay. So now we need a motion to appoint Jones, Holman, Klutz, and Whitaker to the Ordinance Advisory Board. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept Jones, Klutz, Holman, and Whitaker.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, I need you to leave your hands up for just a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, that is a 6-0 vote. And we now have 4 new Ordinance Advisory Board members. Thank you, Board, for that. Made it pretty painless. We now have an appointment to the Planning Board. I need 1 name from each of you. And we'll start down to my right, Commissioner Munger.
Jay Henson.
Commissioner Partee.
Vincent Flowers.
Commissioner Phillips.
Jay Henson.
Commissioner Kidwell.
William Hagler.
Commissioner Kovacs.
Patrick Thomas.
And Commissioner Boone.
Madam Mayor, this is the toughest one. You could take all those candidates and make a planning board out of all of them right now tonight.
I know.
But I'm going to have to go with Jay Henson.
So, Jay? All right. So now we need to entertain a motion on the floor?
I will make a motion for Jay Henson to join our Huntersville Planning Board, effective through the remaining term of June 30th, 2024.
All right, there's a motion. Do I have-
Second.
There's a second.
Did you say 24? Okay, sorry. I heard 34. So.
All those in favor? Any opposed? It's a 6-0 vote. So Mr. Henson will be joining the Planning Board. We'll now move to item 9M. Item 9M is the Rules of Procedure Amendment, and the board is considering approving an amendment to the Town of Huntersville Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedure, Rule 6, Order of Business, to amend the order of the agenda as follows. Mr. Roberts?
You pretty much said it. You know, for you to be able to change the order of the agenda, you have to do this rule change.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Now, I do want to add to that motion.
Point of procedure. If you make a motion, you have to have the addition into that motion.
That's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
All right. With what's presented, I would like to break up commissioner reports and staff questions, moving commissioner reports to the bottom before.
That's already been screened.
Like this,
That's
the
what I
proposed.
submitted.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at my.
That's why you gotta look at the screen.
I don't look at the screen, I look at what the staff gives me.
All right, so
So motion to approve.
motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
They can't once. All right, there is a motion, there is a second. Now I will open the floor up for discussion.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank my fellow board members for working with me on a compromise to bring a little bit more transparency to this process that we do up here. Adding the consent agenda higher on the list, I think, will add some needed transparency that's being done in other communities around the area. So I just want to thank all of you for being a part of that process and those talks. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Munger.
I enjoyed the process, and actually mine is more about the commissioner reports. I have some doubts on moving commissioner reports down to the end. I do think we do our best to try and provide information that's informative, that lets people know about events, things that they may not be aware of. So that's one of the things I like about it, having it at the top. I'm not going to be opposed to this simply because I want to put this one to bed. But I want us to keep an open mind at the possibility of considering moving that back up at a later date. So that's just my thoughts on the matter.
Commissioner Phillips.
So I'm the one who decided to move the commissioner reports to the end. And the reason that I did that is because I've been the person out in the audience sitting, and I had sat through meetings sometimes where it would take the commissioners anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. And when you have people who are, they got kids at home, they got dinner to cook, they have a job to get to early in the morning, sitting up here and listening to the board go on when something is so important on the agenda to them makes it feel like we're being very selfish of their time. And that's why I wanted to move them to the end, so that we're respecting our citizens. You diehard people that sit out here, you guys will sit and you listen. But I also think it's a good opportunity for us to start inviting the people who we sit on the committees with to come do the presentations themselves and to be more engaged with them. I know I've personally really tried to make sure, Ada Jenkins comes in, does an update. I have Rural Hill and the Loch Norman Games coming our first meeting in March, where we can deliver this information to the public, being able to have the ones who are actually doing the work, get the credit, get up here and give the hard answers. I mean, you can't replace that kind of attention to detail. So it wasn't from a negative place or an ugly place. I just feel like we could streamline the process to be better all around.
Anyone else? Commissioner Boone?
Just FYI, the city of Charlotte does it like this.
The county does as well.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, there is a motion on the floor, and there is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, 6-0. We will now move to item 9N, and that is to call a public hearing on the question of designating as a historic landmark the property known as the Huntersville School Number 2, or also known as the Delwood Center. Is there a motion on the floor?
Motion on the floor. I would like to call a public hearing for Monday, March 21st, 2022, at 6 PM at the Huntersville Town Hall on the question of designating as a historic landmark the property known as the Huntersville School Number 2, also known as the Delwood Center, also known as the Little School,
Thank you.
including the exterior of the building and the approximately 2.787 acres of land listed under tax parcel 01908-102 in the Mecklenburg County Tax Office located at 508 Delwood Drive.
There is a motion. Do I have a second? I need to be looking. Who was it? Okay. Kidwell. There is a second. It was almost like unison.
We're like that.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. There is a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Kidwell.
I pulled this up from the consent agenda, and I appreciate the board allowing me to do that, because I feel it's very important that the public really engage in this. This is a huge, huge thing for our community. We have very few historical designations around the town of Huntersville, and anytime we have one that has impacted so many in our Huntersville, town of Huntersville, and our community, we need to just engage in that and celebrate that and really get the community involved and behind that. And just thank you guys for letting me bring that up. Thank you, Stacy, for making the motion. And I'm just very excited about this.
Anything else? All right, seeing none, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? I would expect no less. 6-0. Thank you all. We will now move to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, hold on, give me a second. There is a motion, there is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? I just need to double check. Commissioner Boone, did you vote? I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand, so I just wanted to make. He was.
I have a large head.
And I'm doing, see, I'm running into the mic. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, and there is consensus. It's a 6-0 vote. And now we'll move to closing comments. I'll open the floor. Commissioner Boone.
I'd just like to say this board got their act together this weekend, and I appreciate all the hard work that was done starting last Friday through probably 5 o'clock today. I thought this meeting would go to 10 o'clock, and I'm glad you guys may be wrong on that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other closing comments? Seeing none, the only thing that I will say is job well done to the board. Thank you for sticking with us, those of you who are still here and those of you who are online. Thank you all for participating with us and hanging out with us until 8:15 this evening. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. There is a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Phillips, there's a second. Commissioner Partee, all those in favor? All those in favor, yes? All right. Good night, folks.